Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to League Racing TV here for the social race of a brand new era here on the League Racing TV channel. It's, of course, the Mexican Grand Prix. We are here for the Nations E-League, a little taster of what's to come on the future of the F1 games here on the League Racing TV channel. My name is, of course, Michael Edwards, going to be taking you through the action, and joining alongside me in the commentary box is Yanis Amira. I hope I haven't absolutely butchered that last name, and I've gone for it. But hopefully I haven't butchered it. How's it going, Yanis?
Yeah, not bad, not bad myself. How about yourself, sir?
It is all good, mate. All good. Of course, looking forward to what should be a fantastic bit of racing here tonight. Of course, it is a social race, so there is nothing massively on the line as it currently stands. But this is going to give us a nice little taster of what's to come on the next game cycle on F125.
Indeed, and we still don't have a release date yet. We're all still in anticipation. I think it's meant to drop sometime in July, is what, well, at least what the EML admins are telling me. But yeah, we've still got no clue. So in the meantime, we've got this to whet our appetite.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the Autodromo Humanis Rodriguez, the venue for tonight's action. And let's have a quick look at the circuit in question. Of course, a 4.3 kilometer, 2.6 mile circuit in length, 17 corners, 3 DRS zones, one down the start finish straight in towards turn number 1, and one down in towards turn number 4. And of course, one in towards turn number 12. A very difficult circuit to get right. Of course, that middle sector is very easy just to nip a little too much of the track limits and pick up an invalidation or a track limits warning in terms of the race. But the two DRS detection points, obviously the first DRS detection point is going to be in between turn 9 and 10, just before the run out of 11 in towards the DRS zone on the run in towards turn number 12. And then, of course, the second of the DRS detection zones in between turns 14 and 15. And that is going to give you a double bite of the cherry, not only down the start finish straight in towards turn number 1, but in towards turn number 4, which will provide a lot of overtaking opportunities for all the drivers out there on track.
Yeah, we've got a ton of opportunities really all over the circuit. I've seen someone attempt to move into turn 12, and he actually managed to win the race because of that move. But yeah, primarily turns 1 and 4 are going to be your hot spots, really. The S is not really too much. It's going to be really tight. But yeah, down the main straight also, plenty of opportunities. I believe it's a really long straight. But that's the only bit of info I've not got is how long that main straight actually is.
Well, I mean, it is long enough that if you've got a driver within within close-ish proximity to you in the back, you're probably going to be well behind him going into the break-in for turn number 1. Obviously, ERS is going to be key for all the drivers out there on track, managing their ERS battery, with, of course, down that long start finish straight and down in towards turn number 4, where you are most likely going to be on the battery. You need to make sure that you are charging it up where it matters in that middle and final sector. But of course, you don't want to leave yourself too hindered as you come out of turn 11 onto that DRS run into turn 12, or else you could fall victim to the overtake maneuver, which you mentioned that you have seen, where a driver can win the race with a run in towards turn number 12.
Yeah, apologies, a bit busy trying to get everyone into the lobby now, but take it away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
working the man behind the curtain.
Okay, yeah, no worries, mate. But let's have a look at the drivers that we will be seeing here tonight. Of course, it is the Nations E-League, so we have drivers representing their nations here tonight, and here is the lineup. Some very familiar faces and some that we are viewing for the first time, and a lovely introduction to obviously the Team GB team. Of course, for those that tuned in for the European Esports Championship, which went on towards the end of the 2024 calendar year. Of course, it was Team England at that point, but of course, now Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and combining with England to make a British team. And of course, the drivers here tonight is Cameron Dowds and Zach Styler. Now, of course, Cameron, a very, very, very quick driver. Of course, we've seen him do some incredible things in the past, and not only in terms of for Team England in the past, but also for Team Shazoo in the EML seasons gone by. Of course, looking at the other nations, of course, France with Rene Bakar there, the TTM driver, and Enzo Sabaton. Going to be a very interesting lineup indeed. Team Italy with Leonardo Tonilato. I'm definitely going to be butchering some of these names, so I do apologize to everyone in advance. Angelo and Dio. Okay, now that one's definitely gonna test my pronunciation skills. I'm not gonna. I'm not. Yeah, that's gonna be a bad one for me to try and pronounce. I had all these names down to a T before the stream started, but then when the pressure comes, the pressure comes. But yeah, Angelo and Leonardo are going to be representing Team Italy. Obviously, Tope and Thomas Lamanen are going to be representing Team Finland here tonight. Sergio Sobrino and Diego Zozo are going to be representing Team Spain. Thomas Lang and Dennis Lanrock are going to be representing Team Germany. Poland comes through with Marcel Pabst and, of course, Paulus there for the Polish team. And, of course, with it expanding now from the European sector now to a global sector, we have the Brazilian team of Gabriel Pinto and Saira. And, of course, for Team Australia, we have Gregory Percival and, of course, Campbell Adams. And looking at the lineup, a couple of very familiar faces, Cameron Dowes being the main one that sticks out to me, along with Thomas Lamanen. Those two very quick drivers on their day. They know how to get the job done. I'm going to be very interested to see how, obviously, the dynamic changes. Now you've got the Australian lads coming into it, the Brazilian lads coming into it, because, of course, they weren't here for the European Esports Championship because the countries they're from are not European. So it's going to be interesting. And, of course, looking at the poll in the chat, for those who are excited for the Nations League, it is a resounding. Let's have a look. I believe it was a resounding yes. Yes on absolutely everything. As we got Sam in the chat saying Leo Tonelato. Mate, when it comes to pronouncing names, I pronounce names wrong all the time. You know this about me, Sam. You know this about me. But a lot of fantastic drivers that are going to be getting on to the grid. Obviously, in terms of the drivers, I believe we may be missing one more driver to my knowledge, yes?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out, but it's always funny when you tell people, listen, you've got 2 days to send this guy an invite by 7 p.m. UK time, and it's now 10 past basically, and you still have guys that have not added you. So it's sometimes it is a wonder how we get these races started on time, but we are trying our best. I think I've put out a question: who still needs an invite? No one's answered except Tax. Well, someone's typing, so we'll see how it goes. But we've got 2 minutes tops before we start.
Yep, so 2 minutes to go before we get out there in terms of qualifying. We have 19 of the 20 drivers in the lobby right now. And, of course, in terms of what we're going to see tonight, it is going to be a social race. So we may see a little bit more light-hearted driving where the pressure's not really on, so we might be privy to a lot more battling, side-by-side action, of course, and we're going to see the drivers have a bit of fun out there on track instead of pushing for maximum points. But this right here could be a early statement that you're putting down ahead of the Nations League on the new game cycle. And of course, looking back at the European Esports Championship, Of course, the winners of the European Esports Championship, when we did that at the end of last year, was France. Of course, France are here tonight with Rene Bakar and Enzo, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can carry forward what they did in the European Esports Championship. We have obviously the Netherlands, the Dutch team with JT and Damien Corel, who both drivers are very good drivers. I believe they both represent the Netherlands potentially in the European Esports Championship. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think Damien did. I'm not sure if JT did. But of course, Netherlands were a title contender for the entirety of the event. And obviously you had the Italians that were moving strong as well. Maze in the chat saying everyone supports Brazil. Brazil, definitely a very well supported nation, that is for sure. But it looks like we are about to get ourselves out onto the track for qualifying. And Yasim, what can we expect out of qualifying? What do you think we're going to be expecting out of these guys here in qualifying?
Well, the first couple of laps are definitely going to be just trying to get into the flow of things. So, you know, just taking it easy. Just get a couple warm-up laps in. Well, I say couple. Usually, you want to have an out lap, then a flying lap, and then an in lap, right? But on those initial flying laps, we can anticipate guys maybe taking it slightly easier, maybe pulling back just a little bit, just so you know it's a little less, a little less chance of absolutely binning it into the first couple corners and the first couple of laps, and then towards the end, they'll start ramping up the effort. They'll start ramping up the pace as well, and it's then that we start seeing these amazing battles for pole position. We start seeing these amazing stuff towards the end of the session. But for the start, yeah, kind of a bit chill. We just wait for people to leave the pit lane. See their warm-up techniques. It does seem to be slightly adverse conditions, so I'm interested to see how the weather plays a role in this qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very overcast out there on track as we're waiting for the first set of drivers to come out of the pit lane. And I'm currently on board with Cameron Dowds, of course, the British man, the Englishman, going to be hopefully trying to lead the line for Team UK, and he is the first man out on track as well. And another thing to keep an eye on as well, is the fact that because we are in the multiplayer cars, for everyone to properly represent the nation's colours and that, it's going to make things very interesting when it comes to the pit stop phases, because you're not going to know who your teammate is. So you may be battling someone, both of you come into the pits at the same time, and you're both sharing the same pit box.
The initial season confusion, I guess you could say.
I mean, it'll happen throughout the entirety of the race in the season. That is for sure. Of course, in terms of what we're going to expect in terms of a lap time, I kind of want to see the bankers first and foremost before I pin down a permanent lap time. But we're going to go on board with a flying lap with Cameron Dowds now coming through the final two corners. And mate, do you want to take us on a lap here with Cameron Dowds?
Yes, let me just find him 1 second because I'm on a completely different screen. Cool, Cameron Dowds going on board with him down into turn 1, probably the biggest braking section of the whole circuit. You can see the corner starts dipping into the right-hander before you actually hit the apex, through the Esports Masters League into turn 3 and into the second DRS zone. Again, a nice long straight into yet another, well, not a right-hander, it's a left-hander this time. And this is, of course, where we saw some great battling. George Russell, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen in the past. Some great battles through here if you can get side by side through turn 6, what they call Horkea. I assume my pronunciation is probably going to be horrendous. And then into the S's, turn 7, 8 and 9. Into a DRS detection zone, so if you're within a second of the car ahead, you'll get DRS into this next section, which is just really short, down to the Rector del Ovalo, and then another right-hander. Not really an opportunity there, but then you head into a really cool stadium section, which I believe was a baseball pitch before, or a football stadium, or some sort of thing. And then he comes straight out onto the final corner, just kind of spits you out onto this final long right-hander. It actually classifies as two right-handers, really. Turn 16 and 17, Peraltada, and then across the line. And Cameron Dowd won 12.8. He's just 600 shy of Sobrino.
Yeah, Sergio for the Spanish team there, putting on provisional pole position. Of course, the first set of banker laps coming in. And of course, in terms of lap times now that we've seen the first set of bankers, how much more time do we think these guys are going to get? Like, is it going to be possible for anyone to get themselves into the low 12s, maybe even pushing for the 11s? We'll have to wait and see. But on board with Tope, and Tope there at 12.7 coming through across the line. Tope for the Finnish team, fantastic lap from him. Whereas his teammate Thomas Laminen is currently down in P12. We're on board with Damien Gruel right now, coming through turn number 6. Getting on that ERS battery, and that's another thing that these guys are going to have to make sure that they are managing, not only during the race but also in qualifying as well, making sure that they have enough ERS so they're not derating towards the end of the lap. As you can see, Damien is pretty close to the edge of absolutely running out of deployment altogether. He might just bail off into the pit lane here, but we will see. In fact, yes, he does. He bails out into the pits, goes Damien. That's his lap over and done with. We got the second of the Brits out there on an out lap in Zach. We have the Australian in Campbell. They're down in 19th place, also on an out lap, as well as Powers coming through the final corner now. As Bolas to the line is going to be 15th for him, and half a second off the car in front of him. Now that indicates to me that he's had a bit of a wobble somewhere.
Yeah, all it takes is one little mistake, one little extra lock up, a little bit too much neutral steer, maybe some oversteer. Any of these factors can really heavily influence your lap times. And considering it was a 113.9, that's 1.2 seconds of pole position. Now, sometimes, unfortunately, I hate to say it, this early on already, people are already going to hate me, but it's a social race, so, you know, just chill. But sometimes it does come down to skill issue. Unfortunately, sometimes people just are slower than the others. But yeah, you know, a mistake or something can definitely cost you a load of time. And if you make consecutive mistakes, loads of them, then, you know, there's just a kind of snowball effect. It just exponentially increases, especially when it comes to stuff like locking up your tyres, oversteer, because basically the moment you lock up your tyre, the moment you overheat it, let's say, in whatever way you do it, the next corner you're going to have less grip, and so you're standing a higher chance of locking up again or overheating your tyre again, and then you do it again, and then it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter and worse and worse and worse. So yeah, it is literally a snowball effect, an exponential curve, if you like your A-level or GCSE maths.
Yeah, Diego Zorzo coming through the final corner, goes up in the P5, a strong showing from the Spaniards early on, P2 and P5. Currently, Zach Styler to the line for the Brits, goes up in the P7, just behind his teammate in Cameron Dowds. So good from him. Enzo there goes on provisional pole, and that's immediately beaten by the Australian Campbell Adams.
This is, I'm already amazed. Well, I mean, to be fair, we've got, is it 3 laps of quali? So yeah, I guess these guys only have, you know, 3 laps of quali to do this. So they need to make sure that every single one counts. And we're already at that point where we're seeing these amazing battles for pole position. Sorry, there's a lot of P's in there for some reason. But yeah, I can anticipate Top also potentially ripping one out. He's only 2,000ths off of Sabaton. It's really close. This is incredible. Like, even just the gaps further down, the top, let's say top 8 are all within 2/10 of each other. And then, yeah, I don't know, it's very close. Anyone could take this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can take this, and it's going to be a very interesting to see who is going to take this. That is for sure. Obviously, a lot of people excited for the Nations E League. A lot of interaction there, which is fantastic to see. Sergio goes on provisional pole with a 12.5 improvement on his lap time. Damien, unfortunately, invalidating on his run, and that's putting Damien under a huge amount of pressure. The Netherlands driver, the Dutch driver, under huge pressure here tonight.
To be fair, I mean, it's a social race, so pressure should technically not be on at all. I mean, to be fair though, this is a good scoping kind of race, I guess, if you're looking for who to support going into the Nations E-League and you don't have a country who is participating, i.e. me as a South African. I'm sad not to see many of my fellow countrymen driving for my country. But yeah, if you've got any favourites, yeah, this is kind of your moment to pick and choose, really. We've obviously got Sabrino up on top for Spain, currently in pole position. Campbell Adams P2 for Australia, and Gregory for Australia, he's a little further down. He's down in P13 at the moment, so Australia kind of up and down there. But Spain, yeah, P1 and P8, not looking too bad at all.
No, not looking bad at all for them. Coming on board with Dennis coming through the final sector now, coming through the final corner. As he tries to hook up the right-hander, and he's immediately into the pit, so that not the lap that he wanted. We have on a fast lap right now, we have JT down in the 70th, he's coming up into the pits. We have Polas, I believe he's going to be into the pits as well. In fact, no, he's going to see this lap out to the line. And it's an improvement by half a second, sorry, which is more like it. He's now onto the back of the likes of Syra, JT, and Thomas Laminen, who's out there on a outlap right now, but it's not enough to get him up any positions here.
No, he's still on a 113.4 and Syra's on a 113.3. So yeah, plenty of improvement to be found there. Do you reckon it could be setup related issues as well? Team's not quite prepared for this little bit of extra moist dampness on track. I mean, it's not been too bad. They're still on slicks, but do you reckon that might have a factor? That might have a variable, something to do with how they're doing performance-wise?
Potentially. I mean, we will have to wait and see. Of course, the tracks may not be completely ideal for these guys, so what they've practiced, but I'm sure. I mean, as everything just unwinds here in qualifying, everything will speed up as Diego Zozo, a 10th up in the middle sector, coming into the stadium section now at the hairpin, hooking up the right-hander into the final corners now, and let's see what will happen there as he crosses the line, goes up in the P3, so great showing from the Spaniard.
Amazing. 2 Spaniards in the top 3. They've got to be pleased with that result.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not over yet, though. It's not over yet. We've got the Australians, Campbell Adams, and no, sorry, we don't. Sorry, this other blue car's not quite the other Australian, but Sabaton and P4. But yeah, no, the Spaniards look really strong.
Yep, here it comes Sabaton, and marginal improvement does not improve his position, no. So for right now, Enzo holds on to P4 for the time being, but he has a lot of competition trying to chase him down. Let's go on board with Campbell Adams, who is up by just over half a tenth coming through the final sector now. The Australian coming through the final corner. Will this be provisional pole position for the Aussie? And it will be provisional pole position for the Australian. Gets himself up into provisional pole, just 3 thousandths of a second ahead of Sergio, who is currently on a quick lap right now on purple in the first sector.
This is close, isn't it? This is close. I wonder whether his teammate is going to get up there as well. Whether Gregory will manage to pull together something. Because if he can get into that top 10, he'll be in a fairly decent position to kind of support the team. But, you know, we're not talking about points yet. You know, I need to keep putting myself back. But I mean, why not just go all out, you know? Why not just race your heart out?
It's a
That'd be awesome.
very good lap here from Sergio, and it shows it as he takes back provisional pole position away from the Aussie, who's got to be looking at that time thinking, really, mate, we're playing these games.
I mean, the margins are just incredible, isn't it? Basically 3.5 hundredths between Sabrino and Adams. That's just insane. And then another 4 hundredths between Diego Zorzo and Enzo Sabaton in P3 and P4.
Honestly, it is incredibly tight here in qualifying. It's going to be one mistake that decides it all. That is going to be 100% for sure as Saira comes into the pit lane, the Brazilian. And I believe we'll have Taupe and Gregory, of course, the second of the Aussies, currently in P6, going to be coming into the pits as well. As Taupe there doing a bit of drifting coming through the final corner. And honestly, I mean, F1 cars are not designed to do some rallycross maneuvers there, as we saw from Taupe, but it is fantastic to see Taupe just having a little bit of fun out there.
Absolutely. And I mean, qualifying is the time to do it, isn't it? Got no one else around, well, likely, and collisions are off anyways. So even if he were to crash into someone else, there would be no problem because they would just go through the miracles of modern technology. So yeah, I mean, why not? Why not just go drifting around for your final lap?
Absolutely, and of course we have a poll up in the chat right now, asking everyone who will be top of the times here in qualifying. The options being Spain, Australia, the UK, or France. And right now, Spain leading the poll, 62%, UK on 23%, and 8% each for Australia and France.
Yeah, I mean, some solid teams there for sure. But yeah, I mean, UK though, I mean, Cameron Dowder's down in P10 and his teammate Zach Seiler in P11. I'm actually watching them right now on their outlaps. They're just going, well, I think it's Cameron Dowd's just coming around the final corner now to start his flying lap. So, you know, perfect timing really. But yeah, we haven't really seen too much from them. Maybe a little earlier on into the session we saw them come up into maybe P5, P6, but yeah, they've just dropped down a lot further. I don't think they've managed to get any good laps in thus far. So this final section of qualifying will be absolutely crucial for them to get some good times in and get their laps in before it ends.
Yeah, absolutely, and let's see what Cameron Dowds is going to do here at the first sector split. He's up by over a 10th immediately, which would be enough right now. If he can hold on to that 10th, would be enough to jump him up into P5. If he can find more time, then he could get himself onto the second row. If he can find another 2 tenths on this lap, he's challenging the likes of Sergio Sabrino and of course Campbell Adams for pole position. And of course, let's see what the middle sector split is going to say for the Brit. He's up by a 10.5 in the middle sector, flying through turn number 12. Really attacking that inside curve at turn number 12. Now through the final corner comes the Brit Cameron Dowds to the line. And is it going to be P4 for the Brit up in the P4, sharing the row with the Spaniard in Diego Zozo.
I think he lost something in that last sector. He lost something there. It was a 10.5 up, and then yeah, he just lost that extra gain in time really. So there's that last little bit that he can extract in the final sector. Now he knows that. He's going to focus on that little section of the track. He knows he's nailed this first bit, but I mean, looking at the sector one time, you know, it's not going to be a flying lap really for him at this point. But yeah, but do you reckon he'll have a chance for one more lap before the end of the session?
Potentially. I mean, obviously, in terms of what I can currently see, apparently it's lap 3 of 3 here in qualifying 1. Um, I'm not sure. I believe we got around about, I'm going to say around about 4, maybe 5 minutes to go here in the session, maybe.
We're definitely coming to the end of it. It's weird as well. Like, I usually have got the timer on for like 17 or 18. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there it
Qualifying
is.
over, yeah.
Yep, there's the end of the session as we're on board with Enzo Sabaton coming across the line. And what's it going to be? P3 for the French contingent there with Enzo. Gregory goes up. Oh, Marcel Paps up into P3. What a lap time there from him. As we're getting times coming in thick and fast now. Rene Baccar going up into P5 as well. Team France coming in strong. But is anyone going to topple Sergio Sobrino's final lap time? Find out as we on board with Dennis Lagrock coming through. Not going to be set in pole position as Angelo right there takes pole position at the end, unless Tope can do something about it. And of course we still got Zach on the lap as well. Zach to the line doesn't improve position, I don't think. Tope up to P6, but Angelo there out of nowhere takes pole position.
Wow, incredible. Angelo D'Ortenzio at the final chance on the final lap takes pole position with Sergio Sobrino putting in consistent effort and probably feeling a little under there. He got beaten to it on the final lap. Campbell Adams doing well for Australia, keeping it in P3. Marcel Pupst and Sabaton coming through in the final couple minutes for P4 and P5. But join us in just a few moments for the race starts. Don't go anywhere. Grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a drink, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the lobby has been reset. The grid is just getting sorted right now. But what a qualifying session we just had here in Mexico. Of course, we'll run you through the entire grid as it currently stands in just a moment's time. But it was Angelo, the Italian, snatching pole position by 9 thousandths of a second ahead of Sergio Sobrino in second place, who will join Angelo on the front row. Is going to be the Italian versus the Spaniard down in towards turn number one. Campbell Adams for the Aussies there in P3 with Marcel Paps. A fantastic lap from him puts him in P4. Enzo Sabaton in P5, the Frenchman, right there in the top five, and the top five separated by less than a tenth of a second. And then it gets very, very tight behind that. Taupe in P6, 1 thousandth of a second quicker than Rene in P7, who is 2 thousandths of a second quicker than Diego Zorzo in P8, who is 5 thousandths of a second quicker than Cameron Dowds in P9. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. 8 thousandths of a second separate P6 down to P9. Incredibly close in qualifying, that is for sure. Gregory Percival in P10 completes the top 10, the Australian. And then, of course, outside the top 10, we had Gabriel Pinto, the Brazilian, in 11th. Rando in 12th, with Dennis Langrock in 13th, Zach Steyler in 14th, Thomas Laminen in 15th, Thomas Lang in 16th. Then, of course, we had Damien Correll in 17th, JT in 18th, Syra in 19th, and then we had Paulas in 20th place. The top 15 separated by less than 3 tenths of a second. Incredibly close. So where any small margin would have gained you massively in that qualifying session. In terms of the strategies that we could see here tonight, of course, is the one stop versus the two stop. Here, of course, we put the option out there for you guys to have a little look and maybe see who is going to be. See what you guys are thinking in terms of strategy. 90% of you so far are saying one stop all the way. But could we be seeing a few gambles on a two stop here, mate?
I'm not sure. Something would have to go wrong, I reckon, for a two-stop, or unless we get changing conditions, because of course things could change very quickly. I believe I was doing a race for a different community on F124 at Hungary, and the conditions changed throughout the race. At the start, it was sopping wet, but by the end, we were doing straight on. We were doing just straight slicks and dries. So we should, yeah, I think it's going to be could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, it will be. And of course, we are still getting the grid just sorted now, waiting for the ready up. Quick reminder to everyone that is driving in the lobby, remember your setups, because it is going to be very important that you remember those setups. Do not be going into this race with a default setup, because that is definitely not going to help you. As we have one more look at the track in question before we head out there to the race. Of course, 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles, 3 DRS zones, providing a lot of overtaking opportunities down towards turn number 1, turn number 4, and turn number 12. Will we be seeing changeable conditions perhaps come into effect? I don't know, but considering the cloud coverage we had in qualifying, let's not rule it out just yet.
I mean, judging by the conditions at the moment, though, looks like it all blew over. Of course, throughout the course of a race weekend, the conditions could change very quickly, especially day to day. But yeah, we got a lot to look forward to. 3 DRS zones and 17 corners. Plenty of opportunities for overtaking, especially down into turn 1, turn 4, and potentially into turn 12. And the conditions being at the top of its abilities, yeah, we should be looking at tip-top performance as well. Of course, qualifying was really interesting to watch. We had some guys on the final lap even gaining pole position and a few other spots as well. I think it was interesting to see the Spaniards kind of being split apart, just place by place, position by position, until we had one Spaniard start on P2, and then we had one start way down in P8, I think. It
Yeah,
was it was really interesting, yeah.
yeah, as I mentioned, it was incredibly close in terms of the qualifying lap times. The top five separated by less than a tenth of a second. From P6 down to P9, 8 thousandths of a second separated those four drivers from Tope, Rene, Diego, and of course Cameron. So it is going to be incredibly interesting. We have support, I believe, for now we're testing my ability to I believe it is for the French outfit, support for the French in the chat. And yeah, honestly, the drivers out there on the track right now trying to get the setups sorted, ready for the race. As you can see, nice clear blue skies out there.
Optimum track conditions. Maybe slightly cooler. It doesn't quite give me midday vibes. Just the angle that we're at. I don't know. Maybe something about the shadows. For me, like midday would be virtually no shadows from this grandstand, really. But I don't know. We haven't seen the rest of the track yet. For all we know, it could be in the afternoon, and they're at about 26 degrees. We also need to remember that this track is actually at an incredibly high elevation. It's actually more than 2 kilometers above sea level, 2,000 meters. I don't know what that is in feet because I could calculate it, but calculator maths, calculator commentary maths is incredibly tricky and an art mastered by not even the masters themselves. So it's gonna be a bit tricky to calculate that in meters. But here we go, the race about to begin. The lights come on. And it's go time. 20 cars go roaring down to turn one to start 36 laps of racing. And Ortenzo still in the lead. He's got a good start over Sabrino. Sabrino just pulls back in behind. Same with Adams. And we've got Pabst also looking for an opportunity. We've got a white car coming down the inside. I believe that is Top already making a position up into P3. He's alongside the Spaniard. Not quite far enough to claim hold on the second corner. A little bit of movement further back, but Hortenzio still holding on to that race lead. Sabrino's managing just to keep Top out into that initial 3 corners, and Top just files in behind them as we've got some chaos towards the end. We've got Laminin dropping down the order. He's fallen back a little bit. We've got a move from Zorzo on Pabst. I was about to say it the other way around. Yes, I have to say the names are a bit tricky to get right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone filing through the first lap. Lovely little bit of side-by-side action we just saw coming through the S's on lap number 1. As the drivers are really trying to get themselves into some good positions. Yes, we got Gregory and Marcel side-by-side, and that is Marcel sending one. Contact made on the rear of Gregory, and that unfortunately has sent the Australian for a spin. Not what we like to see. Marcel seemed to be outbreaking himself into that hairpin there massively, and Gregory feeling the consequences of that right there.
Sometimes like these, I wish we could have replays. If we had about 50 different PCs running. But yeah, unfortunately, F1 doesn't quite feature replays as easily as some of the other racing games. We got some action further up the grid though. We've got some movement between Thomas Lang, Pinto, Ryan Bakar. We got some interesting stuff happening here as we've got Thomas Lang also in the background off there into that right-hander. He's fallen down the grid. He's now down to P20. And yeah, at this point I think we're just seeing loads of positions drop due to just negligent driving. Drivers maybe taking their social race a little too casually, trying to socialise with each other in the cockpits. Well, we like to do that. Yes, we like to do that. We like to socialise. But yeah, being in someone else's cockpit while they're driving is not necessarily considered to be polite, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. A good start from Zach, getting up a couple of positions. He's up in the P10. And in fact, let's have a look at the position gains and losses here at the start of this race. It looks like it's going to be Dennis, the big gainer. He's up 5 positions. Zach up 4 positions. You got Tope up 4 positions now as he's side by side with Sergio for P2. So we'll go on board with this battle as it looks like Tope will get the move done, but the door's still open there for Sergio to come back at him as we run down in towards turn number 4. He just can't carry the speed around the outside there of Tope. So Tope up 4 positions. Zach is having a bit of a battle with Rene Bacca as the Frenchman gets past the Brit up in the P11, and Zach moves in 2 positions in very quick succession to Brando as well as Rene there. So not ideal for him, but Dennis, the big gainer at the start, the big loser at the start in terms of positions. I mean, you got Rene who's down 4 positions. You got Marcel down 5 positions. Gregory Berzabel down 4 positions as well after the contact earlier, and of course Thomas Lang, who is down 4 positions.
To this point in the race, lap 4, where DRS chains are the hot topic. I'm just looking at this battle here for P3, Sabaton and Sabrino, and also even the race lead. Top taking the race lead under DRS. We've got Hortenzio and Sabrino going head to head. The Italian versus the Spaniard. The Italian comes out on top as they head through turn 3, just about managing to hold on to that position. Top under slipstream and the DRS managing to make a position, but now that Spaniard needs to watch out for Sabaton trying to go around the outside into the next corner, and he's made that move stick, I believe, because he's got 2 right-handers. They are banging wheels as they head through here. Plenty of contact here, and I'm sure the mechanics are not going to be too happy with the amount of shrapnel they'll have to deal with when those cars come back into the garage, and marshals too. Sabaton having to go off track to try and maintain his momentum as he's still side by side with Sabrino going through the S's into turn 12 though. This is going to be interesting. They've got some DRS as well, slipstream playing a role, but into that right-hander there was nothing there, and Sabrino still manages to hold on to P3 despite these savage assaults.
Yeah, absolutely. Enzo really asking all the questions there of Sabrino there for P3 in that middle sector. I have been mentioned about my pronunciation of what's called Ryan. Are we is it the same as like Ryan? Because I thought it was pronounced Rene type thing right there. Not spelled as in that way as it was put in chat, but that's how I pronounced it. But correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Ryan? Is it Ryan? Oh, it's Campbell there. Actually, a little bit of a lag issue there for Campbell. Unfortunately, I think the Australian connection just taking just a little bit out of desync there for him as Cameron Dowd's in P7 now back in the DRS train. He's done well to get back in the DRS train. He was outside that 1 second window, was Cameron Dowd, but he's back in the DRS train right on the back of the top 6 now, which is good going from the Brit.
As long as he can hold on to that, he'll be fine, I reckon. He just needs to hold on to that. Zach Styler, his teammate quite a while back, P10, but he's also still in that chain. He's just barely within shot. So, I don't know, could we see some team play, maybe, from the Brits, trying to get the teammates up? But I'm seeing some movement up front. We've got Zorzo down the inside of Campbell Adams for P5, forcing his way through on the braking. Not quite fast enough, but, you know, just enough to be a significant obstacle to Campbell as they headed into that right-hander. And he's got that move done, though. But we've got the Brit making the move now as well. We've got Cameron Dowds coming up onto Adams and looking at a P6 position here, so he can start fighting Zorjo. And looking at the standings, we've got 2 Spaniards in P3 and P5, and then we've got a couple other drivers kind of all over the place from some different countries.
Yeah, what's called the 2 Spaniards doing absolutely fantastically right now, both inside the top 5. Cameron and there was looking to put Campbell Adams under pressure here for P6, and this is where I reckon it's all going to come down to how good you are in terms of your ERS battery. These guys at the front have done an incredible job with their battery thus far, and then you get midway down the top 10, and there's definitely been a lot more usage in terms of the ERS deployment to try and make moves nice and early. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays a factor later in the stint. Might leave them a little bit vulnerable to some of the drivers a bit further behind in the string.
And then we've got to keep in mind we've also got the pit stops coming up as well, either one stop or two stop. I can't remember what the result of the poll was, but I think overwhelmingly it was a one stop. Yeah, 92% of people saying we're going for a one stop strategy for most people, and then two stop is kind of a 7% chance. Yeah, that has seemed to be the dominant strategy even in some of the past EML F1 championship seasons. And tonight, yeah, I don't think it'll be any different.
Yep, absolutely. As looks like Enzo just losing a little touch to Sergio up ahead through the S's, just getting slightly out of shape, and that has cost Enzo a bit of time. Might put him under pressure from the Spaniard of Diego Zozo in behind. So let's see if the Spaniard, the second Spaniard, can make it a 3-4 for the Spanish contingent here tonight, as he is on the ERS battery. He has the DRS wide open, and he is using to get this move done. Moves to the inside for turn number 1 up ahead. You're seeing the change for the race lead, as well as Enzo really late braking there as he's cut off there from Sergio, and that has allowed Diego just to momentarily go side by side. But will he get the move done now down the inside into towards turn number 4? He hangs it around the outside for turn number 5 and goes off track there, does Diego. So no move there for the Spaniard.
And while we were chatting, we also had a change for the race lead. Top losing out to Angelo D'Ortenzio, the Italian, taking the race lead. And we then had a brief battle between Sabrino and Top as well for P2. And at the moment, Top has taken the superior position, P2 for him with the Spaniard behind. 2 Spaniards in the top 5, not bad at all. We've still got a load of laps to go. We've still got, commentator maths, 29 laps to go as they come around the final corner, so that will be 28 laps now. And we've already got our first driver into the pits. Who's that? That's Campbell Adams, straight into the pits.
The Australian into the pits at the end of lap number 8, the beginning of lap number 9. He has seen enough and he wants to get out of this train and maybe try to look for a nice cheeky little undercut on these guys up ahead. And it's going to be interesting to see how good the undercut is versus just being in the DRS train. Of course, in the corners, the fresher tyres will allow him to gain a bit of time, but will he gain enough to overset the affected DRS? I don't know as of yet. We've got Tope and Sabrino side by side coming through turn number 6, and the Spaniard is up at the P2. As you got Enzo and Tope side by side going into the S's. Not ideal, but Enzo backs out. That might put him under a bit of pressure from Diego in behind, but look at the run that Cameron Dowds has got out of the S's as he potentially tries to size up a move, but he's not going to go for anything too risky. The Brit going to stay there in P6 and just consolidate for the time being.
That was amazing. Top and Sabrino once again going head to head. Massive rivalry between these two guys. We also had Sabaton and Zorja get involved, and as I say that, we've actually got Sabaton peeling off into the pits now as well, but we need to keep an eye on these guys at the top. Although, to be fair, the gap isn't too large, but Cameron Dow's still 0.2 off of Zorjo, trying to get involved in that top 4 fight, trying to get to the podium positions. And yeah, once you get up into that top 5 and you get into these DRS chains that then compress under the braking zones, especially into turn 1, it's going to be very interesting going through that right-hander.
Absolutely. As Damien the MP8 on the hard compound tyres. Now, he started on those hard compound tyres. He's gone different to the rest of the field. Obviously, Damien and JT, of course, the 2 Dutch drivers, going alternative to everyone else. And now their tyres are starting to come into play here. Of course, Damien is still within the DRS range of the lead pack, so he'll be looking at this as a very productive first stint on these hard common tyres, but not if he has rear end snaps like that as he just had coming through turn number 12 there. Absolutely stepping out on the rear end was the Dutch car right there, as we've got Tope into the pits along with Dennis Langrock, as Paulas is also into the pits as well. As we've got a change for the race lead, as Sergio Sobrino is now ahead of Angelo.
These pit stops are very interesting because usually you'd anticipate a one stop to be about halfway, right? You'd expect it to be maybe lap 18 or something if they were, you know, keeping the tyre compounds somewhat even. And I think most people have been on mediums and hards, but yet now that we've got some drivers pitting already, that's quite a ways earlier than I'd have anticipated. So I reckon we might actually see some two-stops from some of these teams.
I mean, time will tell in terms of that, but what I am seeing right now, and this is just from what I've seen, Gregory Briswell going for the big undercut on the field is in the DRS range of his teammate Campbell Adams, and they are 1.6 ahead of Enzo and Tope, who of course were in this lead train battling at the at the top end of the field. So this is going to be interesting. I think Australia right now have pulled off a 1-2 net position in the first of the pit stop phases.
Oh, anymore and it'll get even more complicated. Pit stops aren't my expertise, that has to be said. So take my predictions and my, how do I say it? Just the way I cover them with a pinch of salt, a hefty pinch of salt, maybe with some pepper as well.
Well, they are now the Australian pairing are on the back of Thomas Laminen for P8 in this race. They're not going to be close enough to go for the move in towards turn number 4, but they're going to have the grip advantage versus Thomas Laminen. So will that grip advantage happen around the outside? Bit of wing damage here for Thomas Laminen on the front left end plate, and that is going to allow Campbell Adams to go clean around the outside. And now Gregory needs to find a way through, because look at that, Tope is now back within DRS range.
Oh dear, this is interesting. Oh my goodness, and there's Laminen suddenly dropping, and he's left the circuit a couple times. Top goes through, Gregory goes through, and he's just dropping down the grid. Do you reckon there's damage to his car? That's kind of causing him some massive issues.
Yeah, for Thomas Laminen, yeah, there was damage on our front left end plate, but also he was doing a job for his teammate there, I think, in Tope. Of course, the Finns working together to make sure Tope can get back within DRS range, and he is within DRS range now of the two Australians, and I think that's job done. Like for Team Finland, that's exactly what they needed in terms of getting Tope there on the back of the two Aussies.
Yeah, it's all about those DRS chains, because I mean, looking at the gaps up at the top, you've got Sergio Sobrino and Cameron Dowds within a second, and then you've got Damien 3 seconds behind, JT 3.5 seconds behind, Brando 5.5 seconds behind, Gregory 3 seconds behind, well now 5, and then you've got this chain of P6, P7, P8, pretty much all the way down to P11, all within a tenth of each other. There's a gap between Dennis Langrock and Marcel Paps, the German and the Polish driver, down in P11 and P12. So yeah, as long as these guys can all stay within a DRS chain, yeah, potential 1-2 for the Australians, I don't know.
Well, just indicate on how much time lost with the undercut happened there. You see Angelo's just getting through on Thomas Laminen, as Rayan also gets through as well. I'm probably going to get absolutely butchered for the way I keep pronouncing Rayan's name, as Laminen's into the pit lane, retires from the session with the wing damage, not wanting to continue on in this race, as we have a switcheroo for the Spaniards, as Diego gets himself ahead of Sergio. Up into P12 goes Diego Zoso, and P13 now for Sergio Sobrino.
some massive fights up in P4, P5, P6, P7, P8, P9. Those top positions as we go 3 wide, and oh my goodness, there is
a Zach
a red
around.
car completely spun out. That is Zach indeed, and we've still got the rest racing. We've got Top just making the position on Langrock, and in all that chaos, Sabaton now manages to pull out a slight gap on them, and Gregory, well, he's just trying to close the gap to Brando and extend his lead on the rest of the grid. He's almost got a second on Sabaton, so these guys towards the front of this chain need to make sure they are still within that second by the time they go through that DRS detection zone, because if not, they will not be getting DRS down the main straight, and the DRS detection zone, I believe, is actually down between turns 9 and 10, so they should still have some, as Top is still around the outside of Campbell Adams as they head down towards turn 1 now. The DRS activated, but I think he'll have the slipstream.
Oh, look at Angelo.
Ahead. Oh, there's an Italian car in the background into the wall. Oh my goodness. Artenzio, who was leading the race, out of it right now. Oh my goodness, down the main straight.
That is a huge crash right there for the Italian of Angelo, and honestly, the closing speed he had there was incredible, and everyone in the chat is just as surprised as me. Where's the safety car? There's no safety car to play for that. That should definitely be a safety car, in my opinion.
I'll double check the settings before we started, and safety car was on reduced as opposed to either just regular or off, so it should still hopefully come out at some point. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of over to the side of the circuit as Top's now out of position as well, just behind these guys, just behind Campbell Adams. Couldn't quite catch it. We've also got another driver into the pits now, and JT's still leading, still not pitted yet, but he's only got 3/10 on Damien. I think it's the 2 Dutch drivers doing well to stick together and work together to build that gap on Sabaton down in P3, but he's being chased by Gregory now for that upper position. We've got loads of drivers side by side now down into turn 1. Plenty of chaos to keep track of. We've got Marcel Pupst in the white car behind, and yeah, Top in all that managed to take P6 still.
Campbell losing out 4 places here, as that is a big mistake there from the French driver in Rene, as Ryan is absolute outbreak of the century right there from the Frenchman, and that sees him fall down the order. But of course, yep, big mistake from the Frenchman.
Plenty of chaos, plenty of broken wings, so 2 stops might be potential here, as we've also got Campbell Adams and Cameron Dowd suddenly switching places, and Ryan Nabakar losing positions there. I'm not sure whether that was my pronunciation right, because it's French, so probably you try and not roll the R really. But back behind him we've got Marcel Pups going 3 wide into turn 1. There's contact between the 3 of them, Top and Pups bouncing around, and then in all that, Cameron Dowd also gets involved there. We've got 5-6 cars involved here for P number 5, P4 even, as Gregory, yeah, he's just disappeared up the road. All this chaos, and these guys are still fighting for P5.
Yeah, this is I mean, see, it is a social race now, but obviously we've seen a lot of mistakes coming from a lot of the drivers out there on track, and I think everyone needs to take a little breather, just calm down. It's lap 17, not lap 36. A lot of lunges I'm seeing out there on track at the moment.
Yeah, usually you anticipate this kind of chaos on the final lap. Yeah, just the desperation really. I usually see like a desperate move. And I mean, even just last season in the EML Championships, we saw loads of guys just throw away their race because they were just too aggressive on that final lap, too desperate to gain the position. Hopefully it's all calmed down a little bit. Well, not much here for Paps, Dowds and the Spaniard as well, heading into turn 1, and Paps has come out worse from that situation. Zorja making an easy position on that pole.
Well, Cameron Dowd on the pressure of the hard compound tyres versus the drivers around him, as Sergio Sabrino goes into the back of Marcel Babse in P8, as they are ghosting through each other at the moment. But yeah, the Brit currently in P6 has the pressure of the tyres of the guys in front of him and those directly behind him. He does have the pace to close up, but question is, will he close up enough, or will he be stuck battling and losing time with the Spaniards in the pole directly behind him?
I don't know. I mean, the Spaniards have obviously been absolutely rapid all weekend long, but obviously in the pit stop phase, they kind of lost a little bit of time. They lost a few positions. I'm just looking up at the top. We've got Dennis Langrock and Sabaton just swapping positions for P3 and P4, and of course Gregory is not far behind that as well. And they're actually gaining time on JT and Damien because they haven't made their pit stops yet. They're still on their mediums, I believe. And yeah, so they're going for that that one-stop strategy. But I don't know. Again, on the hards, could still be a one-stop for these guys, so maybe they've just gambled it just perfectly right. Again, strategy is not my strong point. You might have to help me out here, Mike.
I believe everyone is on their one-stop strategies for right now. I think the only way it would change to a two-stop for some of these guys is if a safety car was to be deployed within the next 5 laps, let's say. That's where I think the strategy might change. It would be perfect for the two Dutch drivers leading the race thus far to see a safety car come out in the next 5 laps, but for everyone else, I feel that if a safety car does come out, they'll be in for a fresh set of mediums. As what we're seeing right now is the two Dutch drivers working together, DRS trading the race lead to try and not lose as much time as possible to these guys on fresher tyres in behind. Cameron Dowd back through on Diego Zozo as he's back up in the P6, and look at that gap now, it's down to 1.8, the gap between himself and Gregory Percival, who has lost a huge amount of time to Dennis and Enzo up ahead. So not sure what's happened to the Australian there, but he's falling back into the clutches of Cameron and Diego, as well as Marcel and Sergio and his teammate in Campbell Adams as well. Obviously, in terms of the tyre weight, Gregory Percival has almost double the tyre laps that he's done on these tyres to the guys in behind him. He has more than doubled of Cameron Dowd at this moment in time, but yeah, I think the undercut that Gregory went for might come back to bite him now.
Yeah, 2.3 seconds off the other drivers. Yeah, it's going to be tough to catch up to that gap, but just ahead, speaking of, we've got Langrock and Sabaton swapping positions once more, and the gap to JT and Damien is only closing. So these guys need to pick up the pace a little bit. Are they on fresher tyres?
No, so JT and Damien have been on those tyres since the start of the race. They started on the hards.
Still not pitted, and they're just losing time all the way. Maybe they're trying to go, I know mediums are probably going to be the next thing for them, but are they maybe trying to just get this gap as big as possible, hope for a safety car, and then switch to super soft, not super soft, I'm still used to the 2016 way of doing things.
I think what they're doing right now is okay in terms of the strategy they've gone for. They've elected for the hard compound tyres. They're working together. They're going deep into this race. They are going to be around about a pit stop behind the race leaders. They are going to have fresh medium tyres, which will help them, as Angelo has unfortunately left the session, as we got the first of the Dutch drivers into the pits, and that's Damien. So now you're going to see the time fly down from Dennis and Enzo to JT. Now JT does not have his teammate to work with. Cameron Dowd 8 tenths gap to Diego. Diego did pick up the DRS and get through on Gregory Brozabel, who is now down to P7 as he's overtaken by both of the Spaniards. And now we have the Spaniards working together, and they're going to be looking to pounce on the Brit in front.
And he's just trying to catch up to Dennis himself, because there's a 2-second gap there, so it's going to be tricky to try and make up that ground as well, while being assaulted by these guys. Or he could then hop in on this little DRS train, not put up too much resistance, and try and close that gap to the cars ahead. There's plenty of strategy at play here as well.
Yeah, indeed. Doesn't look like Cameron is going to be getting in the DRS range of the guys up ahead anytime soon, unless these two begin to battle through the middle sector, that of course that is. But Cameron going to be vulnerable now to the two Spaniards in behind, as Diego Zozo and Sergio Sabrino is about to get the DRS activation, and they're going to be absolutely flying down the start finish straight now, looking to get a double overtake done on the Brit. And there goes Diego, as Sergio's going to try to hold it around the outside of turn number 1, turns to the inside for turn number 2, and the outside again for turn number 3, and it is going to be Sergio that does get that position. And now Cameron, unfortunately, a sitting duck Marcel goes through as well in the run in towards turn number 4, and that is the heartbreak of being the lead car when it comes to that detection point. You miss out on 2 opportunities for DRS, so it's very likely you're going to lose at least 2 positions if you're in a bit of a train there.
But in all that though, it seemed as though Zorjo managed to gain just a little bit of time onto Langrock, who of course took the place of Sabaton that lap as well. So it's only 1.8 seconds now. I think the Spaniards have got the pace to close that gap into the final 14 laps of the race, if my calculations are correct. But that is of course assuming that Pups doesn't want to have a scrap with these guys and interfere, because he's looking really racy behind Sabrino. He's really close up behind him on the exit, a little less than ideal. But,
a heartbreak for Sergio there. He's lost out on DRS as the lead changes again. Langrock getting through on Enzo Sabaton, but no DRS for Sergio, as he lost a lot of time in our final sector, and that is going to open the door potentially for Marcel to have a little bit of a look, but he's just not willing to use a bit of that battery to get the move done on the Spaniard, because he definitely could have got himself in position there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that thing of trying not to be too aggressive before you really need to, because he's currently P5, he's fairly comfortable. He can just stick behind the Spaniards, who he knows are going to be working together. Their teammates are going to be trying to close that 1.9 2-second gap on Sabaton, who just got a 3-second time penalty, so that throws a spanner into the mix. And of course we need to remember that Marcel has also got a 3-second time penalty. Oh, these time penalties always tend to throw a spanner in the works, don't they?
Absolutely, and around the track, like the Autodromo Jimenez Rodriguez, it is definitely key to make sure that you get through the race without a penalty, because that penalty can come back and haunt you. Right now, Enzo Sabaton is going to lose out on a podium due to that time penalty, as he overtakes again for the race lead out on track. Sergio gets through on Diego there up in the P3. Marcel just not close enough to go for the move on Diego for P4, so he's saving up the battery. I mean, that's 100% for certain, as it looks like both of the Spaniards are draining their battery to try and close up to the top 2.
Yeah, the thing is as well, if he tries to make the move and he ends up making a mess of it, he's got Cameron Dowds right behind who's ready to pick up the pieces. Cameron Dowds will pick up 3 positions here if Paps makes a hash of it, so there's that as well to consider. And I mean, where is Paps' teammate? Orlos is right down in P12, so I was about to say, you know, if he's trying to get his teammate into it, he's not really a factor at this point in time. But another interesting thing though for Cameron, his teammate Zach is in P8, so he's still got a 2.8 second gap to make up on Gregory though, who's also just about managing to stay at around the 1 second marker. And the Spaniards once again going for that position swap, but all Paps can do is just watch it all happen helplessly.
No, he's going for the move.
There we go, on the inside, on the braking, just not
And
far
Cameron's
enough
gone for the move.
alongside.
Cameron's followed him
Cameron's
through.
alongside into the next couple corners through the double right-hander. He was waiting for this opportunity for a very long time, still side by side into the second DRS zone, into the left-hander now. Paps pulling forward under braking. He'll have that inside line for the first left-hander, but under the two right-handers, Cameron will have that inside line. Under acceleration though, it is Paps who still manages to pull forward. Woo! Adrenaline rush for Marcel there in the first couple corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we saw right there was, of course, Sergio not having the DRS, and you had Marcel and Cameron Dowds use a bit of their battery this time, and they've used their battery to no avail, because they're in the same positions that they were on the previous lap, but both of them having the same idea of let's split up these two Spaniards immediately, and they're seeing that gap now. Diego Zozo is now 1.1 off the back of Enzo Sabaton, as here comes Sergio Sobrino as he gets through up into P3, and Marcel and Cameron Dowds too far back now.
But in all that, they have managed to close within a second of Sabaton. Sobrino 7/10 on Sabaton. So they're going to start fighting for not only higher podium positions, not only are the Spaniards trying to get two cars up in the top three, up on the podium, but they might be aiming for a 1-2, as they've got two teammates fighting in that top three. Dennis and Enzo being P1 and P2 at the moment, so trying to make the same substitution.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, the Spaniards trying to work together. But look at the closing speed that Diego has on Sergio through the S's. And I think Sergio is, he's disconnected from the session. Oh. The Spaniards disconnected from the session. And now that is heartbreak for Sergio Sobrino, as now Sergio will fall down the order, fall away from this top five battle, and now will fall into the clutches of Gregory Percival, probably by the time he comes back into the lobby, as you're seeing Marcel Paps and now Cameron Dowds getting the move done on Diego Zozo, and now it's game on. It's game on. There's no teammate to back up Diego here.
That is just really unlucky. Like, what? It's. To be fair, sorry, my brain's still trying to process things. Through all that chaos, though, Paps is within 6/10 of Sabaton now, and Cameron Dowds half a second behind that, and Zorjo half a second as well. So they've actually managed to catch up to Sabaton now, and this battle will now rage for potentially even the race lead.
Yeah, and this is where you got to look at who's got the best in terms of the battery right now. Enzo Sabaton has the best in terms of the battery. Who has the best in terms of the tyres? Well, that would be Cameron Dowds. And who right now is in the best position to potentially take the race win. Like, when you add in all the factors together, right now I'd say Cameron Dowds and Diego Zozo are in the best positions right now to take the race win here in Mexico, because Dennis right now, he is leading, he doesn't have a penalty, whereas Enzo and Marcel do, so they're going to fall away with those time penalties added. Dennis is the lead car, and unfortunately for him that means no DRS down the start-finish straight, no DRS down in towards turn number 4, which is going to absolutely hinder him. And for him to keep a hold of the race lead, he'll have to burn a bit of battery. He's not going to do so. He will happily give up the race lead at this point in the race, I think. Marcel Paps under pressure from Cameron Dowds, and Cameron, a lovely little move there down the inside of turn number 6. The Brit now onto the podium, and Cameron Dowds on the freshers of the hard compound tyres is coming alive here for Team UK.
Just needs to keep in mind, if he battles, he might be losing time, as Paps now loses out to Zorjo as well, right behind Cameron. So again, yeah, any kind of massive altercation here, any kind of crash now that's it. You know, you're losing that DRS gap, you're losing that DRS window to the cars ahead. But it seems as though Langrock and Sabaton were kind of just coexisting. Like they weren't really doing much with their positions. And here we go though, we've got plenty of side-by-side action. We've got Diego Zortro going around the outside of Cameron. And further up, nothing really happening. Cameron on the defence into turn 1 is not quite far enough alongside the Spanish car to stay ahead, and he loses out on that podium position. But it's not the end of the race. We are on lap 30. We've still got another 7 laps to go, and there's still plenty of action to be had as the Spaniard looks towards the inside for the left-hander, but that'll turn into the outside for the next corner. Looks for the cutback collision with the rear end of Sabaton. Diego just needs to keep it clean so he doesn't get a penalty now and get added on to that list of drivers who'll be losing positions, all thanks to maybe teasing track limits a little too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Now for these guys up in the top 5, it's all about making sure they do not pick up any more time penalties. Of course, for Enzo Sabaton and Marcel Paps, it's going to be difficult for them to hold on to a podium position because of the time penalty they've already accumulated in this race. But never say never in F1. It can, all it takes is one incident to happen, and Enzo and Marcel, for example, could benefit massively from it. So let's not rule anything out just yet. Lap 31 of 36. Dennis Langrock leads the way for the Germans. As you're seeing Enzo Sabaton defending from Diego Zorzo through turn 1 and 2. And we got a lovely view of this from Cameron Dowd's halo here as the Spaniard sends one down the inside towards turn number 4. It's all clean, less far between them, but this battle is going to allow Dennis just to get a bit of breathing room here.
Until he's right alongside that Spaniard and suddenly has an opportunity to make a move. And similar for Paps as well, because if the Brit gets caught up in this and he kind of gets caught up on the Spanish car ahead, Paps will of course pounce on that. What's happened to Zach though? Because Zach was up there just a second ago. Looks like Gabriel Pinto's getting involved there. There's no need to go back down and have a look at them because the battle is up here up at the top. Langrock still holding on to that race lead because of course Sabaton is worrying about these cars behind him. He's got Sorjo, Dowds and Marshall to worry about as they head down into turn 1, and this is going to be the scariest bit for most of these drivers. There's a 3/10 gap between Zorjo and Cameron Dowds though gaining, as well as Paps, who's going to be latest into the brakes. He's going to make a move into turn 1. Paps really right up on the rear end of that red car ahead, but still no moves to be made as the Spaniard still just holds on to that position. Zach and Pinto still going at it for P6.
And yeah, we are Pinto for the Brazilian team up in the P6, as you mentioned. He's got the Brit of Zach Styler on the back of him, and the Australian pairing of Campbell Adams and Gregory Percival in 8th and 9th, and German the Thomas Lang completing that battle in the tail end of the top 10. But up at the front, the other German of Dennis Langrock leading the way ahead of Enzo Sabaton for the French outfit in second. Unfortunately, a 3-second time penalty will knock him off the podium. Diego Zorzo in P3 and net P2 out right now for the Spaniard. Then we got the Brit of Cameron Dowds on the freshest of the tyres, and is currently P4 in a net P3 with the time penalties, looking to potentially get himself a race win right now. And of course, there is a poll right now in chat who you guys think will be on the top step of the podium. It says 3 wide in towards turn number 1 as Enzo and both Diego Zorzo side by side through turn number 1. We're going to go on board with Dennis Langrock to get a nice view of this action, but unfortunately the battle concludes right there. But look at the run that Dennis gets, and Cameron around the outside 2 by 2. It's like Noah's Ark out there. 2 by 2 they go. Cameron Dowds with the inside line in towards turn number 6. Gets the move down on Dennis Langrock as you got Enzo and Diego still side by side on the exit, and it's going to be Diego that comes out on top. Cameron tried to have a little peek around the outside of turn number 7, but not going to work for the Brit. And now is the Spaniard of Diego Zorzo, who is in the race lead out on track.
Oh, and Pam's also getting involved with Langrock behind, also getting involved there. He's slowing them down, going around the outside in the stadium section, still hanging on to that position, still having to go at it into the right-handers of 16 and 17, gets that move done, and I think he'll have the DRS as well, because he was in the DRS detection zone. So everyone here will have DRS, but down into turn 1 though, I think Cameron is going to stand a good chance of making a position. Sabaton under the gaze of this red car into turn 1, though it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Still at least fairly nip and tuck through there, so everyone's still kind of keeping it in line. But yeah, no, that was intense. We had like 5 guys fighting for not just a podium position, but for a race win here, as we've got really close racing up here in the top 3 as well. Everyone kind of really compressed up here, and then it's just Campbell Adams down in P6, 4.5 seconds away, still just running his own race. Well, these guys up here are absolutely hashing it out here for the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of that battle for P6 between Campbell Adams and Zach Styler, if they work together, they can drop Gabriel and Gregory out of the 3-second penalty range, so they can maybe hold on to P6 and P7 in the results. But right now, all the action is up at towards the front of the field. Diego Zozo is getting away marginally from Enzo Sabaton, but he's not getting away enough that Enzo can't keep with him. But at some point, it's all going to come down to who is in the best position going on to the final lap. And you see now Enzo challenging for the race lead in towards turn number 1, and he's not going to go for it. We're on lap 35 of 36. In terms of the poll in chat on who everyone is backing, right now 41% is backing the Brit of Cameron Dowds. And then we got 24% for both Dennis Langrock and Diego Zorzo. And then Enzo Sabaton with a 12% chance given to him by the guys in the chat.
I think Sabaton has proved all of them wrong. He's just overtaken for the race lead, falls his way past Diego. And now Cameron Dowds is once again staring at the back end of that Spaniard. But we've also got Paps and Langrock not far behind. Langrock looking into the next corner down the inside.
Oh, DRS chicken.
Positions there. Oh my goodness. Plenty of action side by side for the 2 red cars. Cameron going defensive into this left-hander out through the section stadium. All just keep it clean out onto the final corner for the penultimate time. It is the final lap of the race, the final major overtaking opportunity down into turn 1. Who is going to have the better advantage here? I think Cameron Dowds has got a pretty good chance here. Everyone going super defensive into turn 1. And there it is, the move from the Spaniard around the outside, and Sabaton can't do anything. He's got no DRS. Straight
locks up the rears.
So Cameron Dowds into P2, and Enzo drops down to P3. Dennis Langrock and Paps still in P4 and P5, but the Spaniard has now taken the race lead on the final lap of the race.
Yeah, he has. Both of them are spent in terms of ERS. They've used everything, but that is not what the Spaniard wants. Going a little bit deeper towards turn number 4, and that's going to put him under huge pressure from Cameron Dowds now. As long as Cameron Dowds can stay relatively close through the S's, he's going to have a run with DRS down in towards turn number 12, and that is what is going to be eyed up here for the Brit. Is Britain versus Spain for the race win. Coming out of turn 11 now. DRS wide open. The ERS has been deployed. Cameron Dowds, will he go to the inside? No, he sits in behind through turn number 12. Pushing the Spaniard. The Spaniard goes defensive to the inside. That might allow Cameron Dowds to maybe get a little switch back, but no. For the final time here, lap 36 of 36 is going to be Diego Zozo, who takes the race win ahead of Cameron Dowds. Dennis Langrock completing the podium. 24% of you in the chat were right to back the Spaniard. And what a race that was. Some definite controversial moments as well throughout the entirety of that race also. But what a race we had for the race victory.
That was incredible. Yeah, driver of the day, Zach. Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't quite manage to get to look at some of the rest of the grid, but yeah, these guys up at the top were certainly very, very entertaining. Spaniard taking the race win.
Yeah, absolutely. As we wait for the podium celebrations, and there is the Spaniard of Diego Zozo takes the top step ahead of the Brit of Cameron Dowds in second place, and of course, it was the German of Dennis Langrock who completes the podium right there. But I'm going to pass over to you to run us through the order for this finishing result.
Well, the race ended with Diego Zorzo taking P1, taking the race win ahead of Cameron Dowds on that final lap, making that final move into turn 1 under DRS. And then we had Dennis Langrock, who was leading the race for very long, coming from P13 on the grid to take the final spot on the podium. And then Zabaton and Pups rounding out your top 5. And of course, we've got the rest of the grid to think about as well. Apparently, Sergio Sobrino, he unfortunately had some power issues where he was, and that caused all the issues. That's why he lagged out, essentially. That's why he couldn't continue in the race. But as for that top 5, very well done, well-deserved win for the Spaniard, well-deserved podiums all round. Everyone who finished up there deserved it 100%.
Yeah, absolutely, and I 100% echo that sentiment. One thing that we are going to do, and it's going to be in the chat right now, is we're going to let you guys vote for the driver of the day. We're going to give a few options out based on just how they did in the race as a total and how many positions they gained, etc. And in terms of the nominations that I'm going to put forward for you guys to make a vote on, I am going to give you guys 4 drivers right now for you guys to have your say, and then we can discuss who our personal driver of the days are as well. But there is the driver of the day vote. Make sure you guys are getting your votes in. Obviously, I've gone obviously in terms of the driver of the day. I think Dennis Langrock is a very worthy shout for driver of the day because he started P13. He went about his race. He didn't really get into any issues at all from my standpoint. Obviously, towards the end, yes, he did get pounced upon by the likes of Diego Zozo, Cameron Dowds, and of course Enzo Sabadon and Marcel Paps towards the end. But throughout the entirety of the race, the German did incredibly well.
Yeah, he did really well to stay out ahead of Sabaton, and I think there was maybe a bit of a calibration there as well. You know, mutual understanding. We need to stay ahead of these other guys. But despite their best efforts, obviously we had Pabst and the Spaniards working hard to catch up. And in my opinion, it's going to be close between Diego Zorzo or Cameron Dowds for me. Actually, I would even throw Pabst in there as well, because they were really the guys that were putting in the grunt of the work to catch up to these guys in the race lead. I think in terms of the teamwork, probably Diego obviously had his teammate Sabrina up there for the majority of it just to catch up, and they did really well just to keep that momentum going. But then, of course, you had Cameron Dowles just hanging on in there, just following these guys all the way through, hanging on to the back end of Paps, hanging on to the back end of these 2 Spaniards just to get up there, really. So yeah, it's between those 2 for me. I can't quite make up my mind.
Well, obviously, in terms of potential shouts at we have obviously in terms of the poll, Zach Styler also again mentioned P14 up to P6 in the end, a good result there for the second of the Brit drivers. I would say both for the Dutch drivers as well. They went for the alternative strategy, P10, P11 they finish. So a good result for the Dutch drivers. But realistically, obviously, you got Dennis Langrock who went for the undercut and pitted a little bit earlier and was at the front for the majority of that race, along with Enzo Sabaton. We had Cameron Dowds, Diego Zozo, as well as, of course, Sabrino, who was the 3 of them cutting their way through the field fantastically, and this is why both Cameron Dowds and Zorzo are in the Driver of the Day nomination. And according to the people in the chat right now, there's been 10 votes cast. 60% of the votes is going the way of Cameron Dowds ahead of Diego Zorzo, who has 40% of the votes.
Yeah, my 2 favorites. my 2 drivers of the day, yeah.
Well, that is going to bring an end to the driver of the day vote from you guys. It does look like it's going to go the way of the British man, of the driver representing the UK, Cameron Dowds. And a massive congratulations to Diego Zozo on the race win, Cameron Dowds on second place, and Dennis Langrock for completing the podium here in the Nations E-League social race at Mexico. And with that, that is going to bring an end to the action here tonight. We will be back, probably not on this game cycle, unless another social race pops up at some point, but I would say that we'd probably be back on the next game cycle now, on F125.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds to be the idea, but we still have no release date as of yet, I believe. So, yeah, could be sometime in July, could be sometime in June. Or for all we know, it could be September. Hopefully not. In which case, we'll have to host a whole load of social races because I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. I can't wait. I can't wait for this Nations E-League.
I can't wait either. And of course, there was a few incidents here tonight, which of course would probably be addressed and probably wouldn't happen in a competitive setting. Of course, this being a social race, is a little bit more light-hearted than a full-on competitive Nations E-League. But I'm sure if stuff like that happened in the Nations E-League, there would be consequences for that actions of some drivers out there on track. But that is going to bring an end to the action here tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in to witness the birth of the Nations E-League. It was a social race. We'll be back for F125, where we hope that we will be seeing a lot more action, a lot more battling, and let's see which nation comes out on top on F125. Until then, guys, I have been Michael Edwards, and where can everyone find yourself, mate, in terms of your socials and that?
Just Yanis Mayer or 111 Air commentary. It's a bit funny. But yeah, just on Twitter or whatnot. We'll I'm sure if you want the links, you can ask for it in the comment section as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I've been Michael Edwards. Obviously, I've been Mike everywhere for the socials. Guys, we will be back for F125. From myself, Mike, from Giannis. We'll see you in the next game cycle. Until then, guys, it's goodbye from the pair of us. And good night.